And that's why I wanted to clearly differentiate between the difference of purpose and calling, because a lot of time we use purpose and we using it in the wrong context, right? It's we all have the same purpose, right? So we're all supposed to jointly do the same thing, but then later on, moving beyond that, it equates to a personal relationship with Him, where He reveals what He called me specifically to do, right? So now that I have an understanding what He called, when now that I have an understanding about what He called me specifically to do, I go forth and, like Son of Timothy just said, I steward that. Now, again, I'm gonna use you as an example, because when we first met, again, I always give kudos to you because you're the one that got me in this space right here. I was doing it vocal first, and then I talked with you as we kind of went back and forth. He was like, "Hey man, come on over to my show. You can cut your teeth that way." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then we started sharing information back and forth. And I would tell you, and you know just as well as I do, every day, probably at least for the first year and a half, every day I hit that live button, man, we be sweating, nervous, sweat running down our back because we want to do our best. I didn't feel like I was equipped to do this. If you really knew me years ago, I was camera shy. You pull the camera out in front of me if you want to, I'm going the other direction. I didn't want to be in front of a camera. So now you want me to get in front of a camera? You want me to do what I asked you to teach me how to do? And now that you've taught me how to do it, now you charge me with going and doing that to people so that they can understand. You see what I'm saying? So all of it relates to a relationship that is acquired over the course of time, which leads from purpose. Fear Him, keep His commandments. Those things create the relationship with Him. Now He shares this information with you. Hey, this is what I want you to do now. And now you go do that. And the way that happens is, you trying to figure out what that looks like. Here's what I believe a lot of times. I believe a lot of times we conflate what we're called to do with what He told us to do. There are some very specific instructions that He told us to do. And a lot of times what you hear is people say, I'm called to do that. No, you're instructed to do that. That's something totally different. I can't take what He instructed me to do and say, that's my calling. No, there's a difference. The Bible articulates three things: knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right? Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So it is my responsibility to seek knowledge, information once processed, now get to the point. So information once analyzed now becomes knowledge after practice several times. Then going from knowledge, I got to get to wisdom. But before I get the wisdom, I got to get the understanding. So now I get the understanding of the knowledge, and then I practice the understanding. Now I get to the wisdom. Then I got to practice the wisdom so that the wisdom gets to the point of understanding. Now I teach it. Because He will not let me get to the understanding unless I am willing to teach the thing that He allowed me to understand. It doesn't matter how. That's why I keep talking about, you have a lot of people on social media and they become, I want this information, I need this information, I need this information, I need it. And they become conglomerates of information that yield nothingness, which to me is just sad. Take time, focus on one thing, and get good at this one thing. Once you get good at this one thing, then move on to something else, right? But a lot of times, and I'm not talking about anybody on this panel, but I'm just saying in general, this is what I've seen. People will grab the information and they do like Martin Lawrence said years ago, they run tell that. But then if you ask them a question about the thing that they're telling, they have no depth or no breadth of the information that they're sharing. So that's the thing. We have to put in the work so that information that we're getting transform itself from the words on the page or the words that's coming into my ears into the point that I have a conceptual understanding, a model that I can put into practice. And then after putting it into practice, I now have a second level of learning that comes from experience.